Hello everyone, welcome, Austerius here. Today we're gonna be summarizing the Anchor build, Lightning Damage, Wind Devils, Eye of the Reckoning, Shaman or Skipper classes. Currently we're looking at the defense variant of this build. With more defensive options, we have 25.5k health over here. We have decent offensive, we have still decent DPS for Eye of the Reckoning, 234k and 19% physical resistance. But this is recreated to fight Celestials, especially Ravager and Caligandra. But before that, we went through the whole game, through all the end game content with offensive version of the build, which is where featuring 370k DPS with Eye of the Reckoning, more DPS with my pets. So basically, summary DPS was looking like more than half the million DPS over damage per seconds. That was insane damage. We killed Mogodran with that. There was some very tight moments fighting Mogodran with that build version, but we still managed to kill it. And this version, that version, however, couldn't deal with Ravager or couldn't deal with Caligadra consistently, rather say. So basically, you couldn't rely on your Eye of the Reckoning. The moment you go there and try to face tank, is there Caligandra or Ravager, you get just destroyed in a second, like sometimes even in one shot. So we did try to change this build to get a more like health regen, more health leech generally, and more defensive constellations like a Tree of Life, Giant Blood, and stuff. We're gonna be talking about this a later date. Unfortunately, we could face tank him for a very longer duration, very longer, especially when the Giant Blood activated. But it's still sometimes, even during the Giant Blood activation, when you have this huge health regen boost, the guy could unfortunately kill us, and there's no consistency there. So in a previous build, a damage-oriented build, we have 4 Wind Devils and 2 Guardians of Empyrean. If you just kite around the Caligandra and Ravager, the pets will gonna kill him eventually. We had also a boost in 100 and minus 142 resistance reduction in that version of the build, and but that would require around half an hour kiting. We're talking here about 1.2.1 patch, right? The one that added like additional 30% of thunder damage to Caligadra, Ravager, and Mogodran, which is, I think, without that bonus damage, we can face tank both of those, Caligadra and Ravager, in my current defensive option build. But unfortunately, it's just too much damage. And they changed the Wind Devils. The patch changed Wind Devils, they became way better, they became permanent. They're still not as good as my Blade Spirit build, the Blade Spirits, not even close to good as the Blade Spirits, but they good nonetheless. And if you just, like I say, in my damage-oriented build, if you kite around the Caligandra, you will be able to kill him eventually in half an hour or something. Like, it was very slow. Pets have a very low. The Wind Devils have very low movement speed, right? Sometimes they just me and Caligandra are way faster than my pets are. I can get very close to him, but I also need to stay close because pets, those kind of pets have a very short leash. So that's the problem. Like we face it with facing the endgame bosses with both versions of this build, and the solution we came up with just not reliable enough in this current patch version. Everything else that Caligandra and Ravager we can defeat easily, right? Even Mogadren was kind of easy fight and fast fight with my DPS oriented build. So what we're gonna talk about here? We're gonna be talking about how to build this build from 0 to hero, what items you want to use on low levels, how the build generally works on low levels, what kind of skills you want to invest first. Considering that we start in this build on ultimate always, right? We're starting on ultimate difficulty, so that's means that we don't have resistances at all, we don't have the powders to cover those resistances, we don't have reputation of factions, we don't have nothing basically. What to do in that case? I'm gonna answer those questions, and obviously that's gonna be working even better if you just play on a normal difficulty. This build was very good on normal when we have a couple of minutes checking it out, early game that is. Then we're gonna be talking about these two versions of the builds, right? I'm gonna have like two links in build description leading to this current defensive oriented option and offensive oriented options. We're gonna be jumping into the Shattered Realm to level 65 Shattered Realm to demonstrate how this defensive option works in the Shattered Realm, and then we're going to be talking about gear, constellation for both the builds, so stay tuned. That's going to take you a while. That's going to take us a while. So first of all, let's jump into Shattered Realms. Right, it's level 60 Shattered Realm. That's what we have here, Celestial Waystone for. Let's get one.
The shattered realm
And see how
far shall we go?
How we can do with this build. So the thing is, on our like day 10 playthrough, if you checking out my Grim Dawn builds there, on a day 10 playthrough, we did check out this build in a offensive option build in level 65-66 Shatter Realm. Totally destroyed everything. Let's summon the past, right? Totally destroyed everything. No problem, but there were some moments when we were getting like very low on health here and there. So like you see, the damage is still there. The damage is still there. It's still like over the 200 k DPS for this guy. Maybe we can't really like face stun this guy, like, you know. And then spinning, but we're getting like very dangerous over there. Welcome, welcome, Maniac. Greetings. We were getting very close to dying there. Even playing defensive variant of the build. But we withstand thanks to our health leech and stuff, like, so currently like health leech over 3k with the giant blood activated. $3,600 to be precisely. So we had some trouble with when it came to damage reflection shields, right? The elites with the damage reflection shield. We have some trouble with them when playing offensive oriented version of the build. Let's switch back to the Rift here. If I hitting them more than for 1 second with my Eye of the Reckoning, this reflection build, damage reflection shields, I can kill myself. I didn't kill myself, Sor, but I could potentially kill. Also, every time pass attack, and this is also taking retaliation. What I did? It's the wrong shit here. Every time I was attacking into damage reflection, even with my passes, I was taking considerable amount damage. We have a resistance to damage reflection, 46%, at least in the previous version of the build. But that still didn't solve the problem. That still didn't solve the problem. So like I say, the damage here is for level 65 shard is still decent, and survivability way better than my damage-oriented version. We're just gonna get to those versions. We're just gonna get to them. Okay, the Iron Maiden. Let's see about her. But yeah, we're not doing as much of damage here as on the previous build, like, so it's taking some time to kill her. She's not moving my health bar at all, but it was taking some time. Same goes to the Griffin here. Okay, there's Gonzalez dude. A Gonzar. Also not a problem, not a problem. So it's just like steamroller through all these bosses here on level 65 shard.
Well done.
And that will be enough for demonstration. Defensive, so offensive options have like way better DPS, like way better DPS, like more than 500,000. But it's also have less, like, you know, it's less fragile. We didn't die. We didn't die when we try this offensive version in the Shattered Lamp 66 and 65. However, there were some moments that our health dropped really low. Well, to be honest, we saw like the moment where our health dropped really low in this part as well, right? In the defensive build. So that's all for demonstration. Let's talk about early game. What we do for this build early game. There is unfortunately very little you can do in terms of monster infrequent. But there's one monster infrequent you absolutely want to have as early as possible. It's Yeti Horn, right? So it's giving you one more Wind Devil, and that's a huge damage boost, especially if you're playing this build as I do on ultimate difficulty, started with ultimate difficulty. So basically how we started like developing, putting my points into we started with a shaman and we put all the points into Wind Devils because you just can't up until level 50 something, you just can't. We were playing this as solo self-found, right? So you just can't like spin to win on ultimate. The moment you get into melee range, everything like just killing you with 1 or 2 hits. So Eye of the Reckoning only became relevant and very relevant after level 50 something, 55 I believe. Before the end game, in late mid game, we had that something around 55k DPS with Eye of the Reckoning, and it's just already out DPS in my 4 Wind Devils. But before that, like early game, before level 50, 4 Wind Devils with Yeti Horn, it just must be. They destroying, they delivering the damage. They're destroying everything, especially on a normal difficulty. Most people, let's be honest, gonna be playing at normal difficulty anyway. However, again, compared to Blade Spears from Nightblade, they just like way lower damage output, and partially because they also moving so slow. I have such a problem with the movement speed, honestly. Even on my basic movement speed, my hero is faster than the Wind Devils. I was complaining without end about that. So that's like, I really appreciated them buffing the Wind Devils now permanent pet. right? However, they also buffed the blade spears in the current patch. Now you can summon with hard cap. You can summon 4 blade spears, if I believe so. So check out our Darish build. Check out the Darish build. Probably gonna have like some links either over here in the description or video description, and this will be even more relevant in this current meta. That build, it was already was very good damage wise, clean and speed wise. This build also probably the highest damage like DPS build I ever had. No kidding. But we couldn't deliver in killing that killing that Ravager and Caligadra consistently. I also have the link on our tries with Caligadra, Ravager, and even a great boss. We have tried a great boss today with a damage-oriented build, and that felt almost okay. We have huge damage in him, but my technique is lagging behind, so I put myself in some awkward positions and got destroyed by the crates. Right, so about that's what I can say about early game. Except there's another thing to add. There's one more thing that you can get early game for increasing mid game rather, to increasing your DPS. You want a Rift Slicer.
Safe storage, no questions asked.
Rift Slicer Claw. Okay, Rift Claw Slicer. Rift Claw Slicer. Those things can be found in Forgotten Ghost DLC, but they're so damn hard to farm early on, right? You just basically, if you really want to boost your DPS for your Eye of the Reckoning, you need to go to that after the killing the Warden in Act 1. You need to go jump right into the Forgotten Gods and try to farm the totems there. Because it's most only a reliable way to get those Rift Slicer close early on. Or you can get to the, I do believe it's
safe with me.
what they call themselves,
You see anything you like?
the Soil Cult. If you align yourself with the soil and you get
Well
oh my god, I rotated the camera, I didn't want to. And if you get to the Vanguard of 3 quest, right? You probably you can get like into a Rift after slightly after Vanguard of the 3 quest, and following the Soil Cult, there's high chance that the boss in that Rift can drop this Rift Claw Slicer. But honestly, even on ultimate difficulty, without it, you have enough DPS to just like steamroll everything up until, well, in mid game and late game, late mid game. That's my honest opinion on that. Right, so like we're gonna be talking about a DPS version of this build, which is greatly different from this one. So let's jump into that. Well, in terms of items, DPS version of this build have only like a 2 difference compared to this one. So we have this this stuff here, and that's and we have a boots with a different component. That's what came into the items. All right, we have this kind of boots over here. That's all a DPS version of the build. Okay, about one more, couple of more words about early version of the build. Like, there's something like Devil Crossing Rings, right? You can get very early. That help in the build. There's also the craftable Solo Griddle, starting from level 35. Also +1 to Shaman skills is very useful for early build for this. Early game for this build, right? Like Ascendance, Shoulder Guards could be also used because we're using dealing some a lot of like elemental damage with Wind Devils and stuff. So that's a couple of words. Okay, now jumping into the gear. sword we have here. Eye of the Storm relic. That's basically for defensive build and offensive build the same. Catalysm Pact belt, same for offensive defensive build. Alright, for offensive build we have a lot of offensive ability like 34, 33, almost 3400, right? This is still good, like offensive ability to fight Celestials, especially when you press an Ascendant. Skill Ascension skills, right? So just 300, enough to create enough to create everything. Enough to create everything. We have cycling marks. So basically, offensive version of the build, relying on a cyclone gear, right? Living armor, cyclone set, cyclone effigy with a seal of corruption. Then we have cyclone mantle with living armor, and again the medallion with bloody crystal here. That's offensive and defensive build have everything the same apart from the two items. So when it's come to defensive build, like I say, we in terms of items we replace my mark of spell scorched platinum on my boots, mystical boots of primordial rage. That's the same boots like you see. We just copy pasta it with Grim Dawn tools. Grim Dawn stash, or as I say. And we have Mark of Mogodran on defensive build. Yeah. And also instead of Cyclone set for offensive build, we have for this build we have Cataclysm set, 3 pieces of a set. Alright, we have the Cataclysm's Eye with another mark of Seal of Corruption. Both of the weapons using a Malmov's Heart Powder, which is giving me health and lightning, boost to lightning damage, because this build is mostly about lightning damage to begin with. And lightning damage conversion coming from Cyclone Effigy here. Alright. Cyclone, so like a Cyclone Mask giving you physical damage, wind devils, and cold damage converted to cold damage, converted to lightning damage, to lightning damage, and Eye of the Reckoning physical damage converted to lightning damage. Then we converting that fire damage of Eye of the Reckoning to lightning with either this one or with Empyrean Mercy stuff here. This is basically the best main hand weapon for this. You can technically get Fazer Kaimlon. I think Fazer Kaimlon one for this build. But this one is superior. This one is superior. Okay, let me see if I can find it. It was like somewhere over here. There is one. The Chimer's Sanctification. So it's giving you like Eye of the Reckoning, physical damage to lightning conversion and stuff, but as Empyrean Mercy is just way superior to that. Right, fire to lightning conversion, or you doing fire lightning conversion with the Cinder Touch. So Cinder Touch has enchanted Earth in this defensive version of the build. On the offensive version of the build we had Restless Remains for Hell's Leech. Alright, we have Storm Cage leg guards in both builds. Didn't change anything for any both builds here. So Scale Hide and for this armor absorption. Both builds, defensive and offensive, have around 26 armor rating, 2600 and 100% armor absorption. For my breastplate, we have a Dawn Shard Hauberg. Right, so more lightning damage, and we get in Titan Platinum on both defensive and offensive build over there. Okay, so what else? Rings and Jewelries. Cataclysm Medallion Amulet. We have a Spark for offensive, Arcane Spark for offensive defensive build. We have Sky Shard Powder, the Underbook augment for offensive ability and lightning damage. We have Arcane Tempest Rings here, 2 of them, both defensive offensive builds. They didn't change anything here with Bloody Crystal and the Typhoon Powder, 350 health and 70 defensive ability. And that's like, I believe, cover all the gear. That's cover all the gear for defensive and offensive version of the build. The difference, right? So let's talk about defensive one, and then we jump in on offensive one. The difference is the main difference in constellation and skills. So let's get this back, and let's get this back as well. The difference is skills here. So for the first version, defensive version of the build, we invest more into Morgadron Pact for a better health regen instead of totems, storm totems, because we had a storm totems in offensive build, which is additional source of damage. That's why I'm saying we have more than 500,000 DPS. Storm totems for Wind Devils, 2 Guardians of Empyreans were delivering the stuff. And we did remove Rebuke completely from defensive version, so we still have some resistance to reflection damage. We got like where are those reflection? Okay, reflection resists 70, right? So we didn't need silence there. Offensive version have 46 reflection resistance, and we have like 4 points into Rebuke for that. So main that's like the difference in skills here. The devotion ones, this is how we look at how the devotion look like for this build. Like I say, we went heavily into defensive here. So we have Ghoul for attack, Health Leech with the Ghoulish Hunger. Unfortunately, it's like low level. We have the Wayward Soul, we have a Carriot. Basically, I have a Carriot in all my builds right now. When scamming for ultimate difficulty playthrough. We have the Behemoth with Giant Blood for that additional health leech. Have 1 point into Manticore, 1 point into Huntress. And then we have Owl to support the Carriot. We have Crane, we have Eel, we have Dog, we have Panther, and we have Lizard for health regen, as well as Crossroads over here, just to support the Tree of Life. Get this 20 Primordial and 7 Order. So we get all of this health regen and health from Tree of Life. We also didn't compromise with Widow here. For the Arcane Bomb, it's like a lightning resistance. Offensive build version has a lot of resistance reduction, minus 142 resistance reduction. Defensive has a little bit less, but still a decent amount. So like less 32, at least 32 flat resistance reduction less for defensive option, because you remove Elemental Storm here. Alright, so that's another thing that you level up this build for early game. You go in for Candle, Coil, and Rewari Crown with Elemental Storm. That's basically all the builds are doing elemental damage, which is the case for, and we put in this Elemental Storm and Wind Devils, and so much damage. So that's the constellation for defensive options of the build. Offensive option of the build look a little bit different. I have it here saved in my Grimdall tools. I'm gonna be putting a link there later. So we did have for this build we did have Storm Totems. For whatever reason I didn't put a Storm Totems skill over here. Yeah, because there's 3 more skills. Okay, yeah, 3 more skills. So we have Storm Totems like maximum level there, And we have the... I think it was 5 points into rebuke here. No, never mind. It was still... It was still like Storm Totems over here. It's like 6 points for my DPS. So like I say, we have a Mogren Pact on only 1 point. We had Heart of the Wild and everything else is maxed out. And our Skipper, we have more points into Rebuke here, which is producing the 46 resistance reduction. Reflection reduction, as I say. And Resilience. I think we have more points in Resilience here as well. So devotion points looking way different. So we have the Candle, like I said, Quill. We have Hawk for offensive ability, Rewari Crown for that Elemental Storm. We have the Griffin. We have the Utos for more like lightning damage. We have Carriot, we have Tempest for lightning damage, we have Jackal for that additional physical resistance, lightning damage. We have Tsunami. Tsunami actually was something that you can remove and put into something like Ghoul. I feel like that will make the build a little bit better. Less damage, but a little bit better in terms of attack damage converted to health. So that's what I should do, because we don't have like enough Primordial. We're using Tsunami just to get that arcane bomb over here in the Widow constellation. So that's basically all the difference. And this constellation and this combination would give me 370k DPS for Eye of the Reckoning. 370k DPS. So everything else is the same as the defensive build, apart from like this two pieces, right? 2 pieces over here in terms of components, and Cyclone Effigy was replaced with the book, the Cataclysm Eye, and getting like 3 pieces of Cataclysm set over there. So that's the difference. Both builds performing very good in Shattered Realm and very good in everything. Mogodren fight like as well. We kill him with offensive damage build. As you see, we have like a lot of offensive ability here. And that wasn't a problem. Mogodren wasn't a problem. Will be not a problem for defensive build as well. Partly can tank it more consistently with defensive build. However, Caligandra and Ravager. I think offensive build, the one we just saw, it's actually better to deal with Caligandra and Ravager, because I guess you can leave it to pets. Pets in that build, in that version of a build, just doing more damage in this version of the build, and you still can consistently face tank either Caligandra or Ravager, so that build was better in terms of trying to handle them, but it still requires a lot of kiting. So that's basically all I wanted to say about it. The build, we didn't like look at stats much, right? We have lightning modifier. Wait, like what? That's retaliation. I was like, oh, it's so low. On offensive build, we have lightning modifier around 3k. On defensive build, it's 2500. So it was 3k and 62, I believe, percent. This 2500 and 59% lightning modifier. It's still the damage. The DPS is still good. It's still good, so I would say go with the defensive option build if you want. Don't want to care about your survivability that much, right? And if there was problems with survivability with everything else for my offensive build, because we are killing like everything extremely fast. So either version of the build is a good. It's just your preference. And either like offensive build have better chances to killing the Celestials, the the Ravager, and like I say, Caligadra, but you need to kite them. You just absolutely can't use the Eye of the Reckoning, which is like a big mechanic of the build. It still Wind Devils was another skill that we're using for this build, so fair enough. That's was basically everything. Thank you guys for watching, listening to all of this. Honestly, I'm slightly bit disappointed about both versions of the build because they didn't deliver as much as I wanted them to deliver in the Celestial fights. But maybe it's a problem, like I said, with the patch. Maybe it's a problem with the patch that additional 30% Thunder is just killing me even through my huge health regen and relatively good physical resistance for this current patch.